Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. If you have drafted for best ball tournaments so far this summer on Underdog Fantasy or on DraftKings, massive field tournaments, big prize money, most of it is up on top of the pay list. You got to come in 1, 2, or 3 to really rake in those 7-figure 2 comma totals. And the new meta for the way that everybody is going about it is paying heavy attention to correlating their lineups around week 17 matchups, playoff week matchups, using a bring back play, an onslaught, a game stack. So we're going to talk through this. This is the newest topic in daily fantasy, in best ball circles, in season long circles that you're going to try and plan for. But a lot of it is out of our control. Obviously, best ball is a game of attrition. You have to stay healthy. That's the number one way to get yourselves through the playoffs, is to have 18 fully healthy players that are on the field at 70 to 75% or more of the snaps and being able to contribute and give you a full roster while everybody else is playing with like 12 to 15 players. Obviously, we correlate our lineups around quarterbacks. We're going to try and bring back some players in the playoff weeks, and I'm going to talk you through all of it that everybody else seems to be really amped up about to give you a way to think about it. It's not the number one way that I build lineups, but it is something that we're conscious of to try and best these massively large field tournaments and give us a little bit of an edge, right? Daily fantasy and best ball is all about flexing these small edges that we can get over and over and over again to turn it into a larger edge over time. So thank you guys for being here. Anything you click helps the channel. If you leave a reply, if you like the video, you subscribe to the channel, you ring the notifications bell so you get notified every time that I put out a video. And the most powerful one, if you share this video on any social media site, if you text it to a friend, that counts. If you put it on your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, wherever you put the link to this video, if you share it from YouTube, that helps out too. So thank you guys for being here once again, and let's go.
He's a legend.
Best Ball Mania 3 is underway. The puppy is underway. 111,000 entrants in the $5 puppy on Underdog Fantasy. And the $25, 451,000 of your closest friends. There's going to be hundreds of teams in the week 17 championship week. And you've got to be the number one scorer to take down the $2 million that's up top in that tournament. So it's going to change the way that people think. If you have not created an account on Underdog Fantasy, use promo code ALSMIZZLE on your first deposit. You get a deposit match up to $100. So if you deposit $100, they are just going to give you another $100 that you can use in Pick'em, or you can use in these Best Ball Mania or Puppy lineups. You might as well double your money on your first deposit. Use code ALSMIZZLE to do it. So the way that everybody is seeming to think right now when it comes to building their tournament lineups, if you're playing sit and go games, which are a 17-week regular season, most points, you don't have to think this way. You're just going to try and build the best team. You're going to correlate it a little bit, but it's not as much as when you're trying to win this tournament. So week 17 has been a big 2-ton gorilla in everybody's mind so far, thinking that like, well, they want to focus on pace up games. They want to focus on games or teams that are going to have high totals or high implied team totals. And matchups that look like they can possibly shoot out. So taking a look at the schedule is the first place that everybody's going to go. And the 3 games that stand out the most in week 17, 1, Bills Bengals as the ultimate, late hammer in this situation. Playing on Monday night, looks like could possibly be a 60 or 70 point real life point game in this spot. Certainly going to have a really high total in that game, and a lot of people are going to be chasing that one. Rams against Chargers. People looking for game stacks here, loading up on Rams, loading up on Chargers in their lineups in the hopes that if their team makes that week 17 final, they have a high correlation in the case that this game goes completely bonkers. And the other game that seems to be being targeted by a lot of people, Broncos at Chiefs. AFC West is going to be an absolute bloodbath in every game this year. They've clearly built up their defenses in the AFC West, right? Everybody gearing up because of the top quarterbacks that they have. All 4 of those teams loading up on pass rushers, defensive backs, because they have to. Rich Rebar called it an arms race, right? Everybody's just trying to load up as much as they can. But every one of these games between all 4 teams in that division should be a game where it's got a total above 50 points, high expected point totals for each individual team, and the possibility of things just going back and forth, not unlike that Bills Chiefs game did in the playoffs. So those are the 3 most common games that I think people are going to try and stack in their best ball tournament lineups as you build through these drafts. I can see a lot of people trying to build around those 3 games. But if everybody's building around those 3 games and everybody gets to the finals, if you've got 20 teams with stacks of those games, it's going to be very hard to differentiate. So how else are you going to do it? I'm not saying that it's something you have to focus on 100%, because it's clearly not, right? That's not what we're looking at. But like focusing on teams that have high implied team totals. If you go to establishtheRun.com, smizzle.tv/ETR will get you a 10% discount on any of the subscriptions that they have over at ETR. And Jack Miller, just about a week and a half ago, came out with 2022 best ball playoff schedules. Something that you should be paying attention to. I didn't say that this is the main way you should be building your lineups, but it's something you should be mindful of. Not just the games that you want to stack, but the individual implied team total. This is a paywalled article, so I'm not going to run through the entire article on the stream, but it's something you should go check out over at establishtheRun.com. But there are teams that have really high implied team totals. I had Kyle send us over a list of the teams that are high on fast-paced teams that are playing other fast-paced teams, or teams that are playing up in pace throughout the playoffs. We did a video on my favorite QB2 stacks that I'm basing around pace and play up matchups for my best ball teams to try and give myself a leg up. So for the implied team totals, teams that look like they have really high implied team totals throughout the playoffs, or higher than, let's say, their weeks 1 through 14, teams like the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, the Bills, but you're drafting them anyway. These are 3 great offenses that, like, yeah, Tom Brady stacks, they work. Those are great things to have. Patrick Mahomes stacks, and you're not having to pay the premium that you used to have to pay. It was very hard to get Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce on a team, on the same team. You'd have to get them at the 1-2 turn if you picked 11 or 12, and then you'd have to hope that Patrick Mahomes made it back to you. Mahomes is going around to 2 rounds later than he went in previous drafts. You only have to spend 1 pick, usually a late first or an early second round pick on Kelce. Then you can pepper in guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, or any of the MVS, any of the other pass catchers on Kansas City. Buccaneers stacks, very easy to get. 2nd round for Mike Evans, 4th round for Godwin, or 5th round for Godwin, but he monitor that injury as the season goes on. Russ Gage manning the slot now. You can pick your pick between Rob Gronkowski or not Russell Gage, but Cameron Brate late. But the Bill stack is the one that you're going to have to pay up for early. Right now, current ADP means like Steph Diggs in the 1st. Josh Allen has fallen to the middle of the 3rd round, so much easier to build those Diggs-Allen stacks than 5th round on Gabe Davis, 12th round on Jamison Crowder, about the 8th, 9th round on Knox. So it's a buildable stack if you want to spend up on a quarterback early. In terms of the pace up stacks, Kyle made me this handy dandy chart to kind of look at who plays up in pace in weeks 15, 16, and 17. So Tennessee, one of the slower teams, is, they're playing the Chargers, who are going to play pretty fast, and they're playing Dallas in week 17. This could be a pace up spot for them. Well, it's going to be a pace up spot for them, but we need these games to shoot out, and Tennessee, we know, wants to run the ball and limit their opponents. But if you're building around Dallas, having a bring back player on the Titans, not a terrible idea. Indianapolis Colts, Michael Pittman looks like a breakout player this year, being drafted in the 30s right now. His ADP has just absolutely skyrocketed, has great matchups late this season. So building around a Matt Ryan stack, or utilizing them as a bring back play, right? If you're building around a Ryan stack team as your QB2, picking up somebody on Minnesota, picking up somebody on the Chargers, picking up somebody on the Giants as a bring back play to go along with that correlated primary stack, gives you a leg up without building around just 1 week. Again, we're trying to be mindful of where things are in the playoff weeks without solely focusing on week 17. Because if we only focus on week 17 and we don't make it through the regular season, we don't get there. If we stack everything in week 17 without any look at who teams are playing in weeks 15 or 16, you could end up with running backs and pass catchers against absolute death matchups in week 15 and 16 and not make it. And your beautiful week 17 matchup is just not there. So like going all in on those week 17 matchups, unless it's something where you're building, look, the Bills are a great standalone stack. The Cincinnati Bengals are an amazing standalone stack. And you happen to get all of them into a lineup together in week 17, obviously a great way to go. If teams that make it to week 17, you're going to see an awful lot of overlap of Bills and Bengals. And it's going to be hard to beat every single one of those stacks that are teams that are correlating both of those sides of that stack. So We've talked about the Jet stack, getting a couple of Houston Texans, Jacksonville, another team that's playing up in pace. The Lions could be a team that surprises and are coming in very cheap. This Jet stack, one of my favorite late game stacks. And then obviously the Denver Broncos here at 6th overall play Arizona, the Rams, and Kansas City. Possibly the best primary stack that also has solid matchups that look like they could be games that have a game total of 50 or above in all 3 of the playoff weeks. The Denver Broncos, not a super easy stack to build because of the costs of Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy now going around 40 and 41. You kind of have to reach on one of them to make sure you get the other. Then you can come back in round 6 and get Russ Wilson. Aquabunum going like in round 12 through 14 right now. Very easy to build those stacks and have a bring back player at minimum, 1 from Arizona, 1 from the Rams, 1 from Kansas City in all differing rounds. That Broncos stack looks tougher and tougher every single draft that I do and every week that it goes along. So looking at those types of stacks is something that I'm looking for in terms of pace up situations. Jets, Jaguars, Broncos, Bills, primary stacks are the main ways that I've been wanting to go with primary stacks, considering an eye on the playoffs with a bring back or a game stack. In terms of bringbacks, as I just mentioned, I'm looking at a few teams, but these are teams that I'm looking at for the entirety of the playoffs and not just the week 17 matchup. So Tampa Bay. So let's take a look at their week 15, 16, and 17 schedule for teams that I think have easy bring back plays in them. Starting with 1, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Week 15, Cincinnati. Easy bringbacks there for your primary stack. Arizona as well. And then Carolina. Tons of cheap players there with a possibility of upside if they can upgrade their quarterback situation. The New York Jets have a very solid week 15 through 17 schedule. Detroit, Jacksonville, Seattle. You don't have to spend a lot to get them unless you're drafting those Seattle primaries. St. Brown is the most expensive pass catcher, unless you're counting DeAndre Swift as a pass catcher. He has a 2nd round ADP. Jacksonville, everybody's cheap. So if you're building out Zach Wilson secondary stacks, QB2 stacks for your teams, it's very easy to get a bring back player from 1 or 2 of these teams to correlate your lineups through the playoff weeks in any way that you can do it. Jacksonville, same sort of situation. Up pace game against Dallas where they're going to have to keep pace. New York Jets, not a great team. Houston, not a great team. Very easy to bring it back with them and not expensive to do it. The Denver Broncos, probably my favorite primary stack to build bringbacks with through Arizona, Los Angeles, and Kansas City for week 17. And the Buffalo Bills. I mean, look, Buffalo Bills are going to be one of the best offenses in the league. They have for the last 2 years. Nothing looks like it's going to change. Miami, Chicago, Cincinnati, weeks 15, 16, and 17. Where do you stand? How are you drafting your best ball teams with an eye to the playoffs as far as these large field tournament goes? Are you only looking at week 17 to build your lineups through that? Are you lightly correlating to it? Is it an afterthought or just a tiebreaker when you're coin flipping one player versus the other and you've got a primary stack? If there's a bring back play from those playoff weeks or specifically week 17, are you prioritizing that week 17 bring back over the other player? Or is it something that you don't think about at all? Are you just sick about hearing everybody trying to overthink week 15, 16, and 17 because who knows who these teams are going to be in December? Let me know in the replies. Drop me one down there, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Look out for another one right there.
He's a legend.